Alright, we're live. I'm making sure to sit closer to the camera, so I'm out-angling you.
Yes,
since you're bigger.
you look so much taller than me here.
So a note to the camera.
We have
now.
the same height, 185?
87.5 actually for me.
So I have bigger shoes, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, no, he's tall, he's a strong guy.
And Piero is actually also quite big. He is dwarfing me, that's why I'm sitting closer to the camera. So I maintain the illusion of me being
the difference is a bit more fat for me.
No, but it's good though. It's good, good muscle. So he's a bigger guy than.
He's the golden one. I'm the silver one.
Silver gorilla, gorilla silverback. That's the
of the bold kind.
But that's good, masculine and with the beard. It's a good look. So yeah, we were about to talk about your book, but before we begin, since we introduced this video, I didn't really introduce it, but anyway, we're just going with it. So how is your training? Always good. How what do you train?
Oh, you mean at home?
Yeah.
Oh well, look, I've always done sports in my life. I was lucky that my father used to be, he was doing athletics when he was young, so he pushed me when I was a baby to do sports. So I did athletics. I didn't like it, but I did a lot of swimming. I do swim still 1 kilometer almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I love to swim. I'm a bit short for, I'm only, if my legs were 10 centimeters longer, I would really be good at swimming, but I still do my kilometer in 25 minutes, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And I like martial arts. It's probably 10 years. I've done 6-7 years of Sistema, Russian Sistema, which is fun, which is really helpful to learn how to control yourself, how to fight in good conditions. So it's more like the Sambo style.
Right.
Yeah, and it's 2 years now that I'm doing Muay Thai because I want to change. I want to discover new tricks, more aggressive as well, a bit more punching.
Yeah.
So I want to change that, and of course I train a lot. I'm 47. I'm already quite old, but I still try to keep about 45 minutes, 1 hour of sport, 5 times a week.
All right.
And then, of course, we do a lot of things. With the army in Switzerland, we have this tradition where every year you walk 50 kilometers. So I try to do that every year. So now I'm still doing it under 8 hours. So it's nice.
So that's every year.
Yeah, it's a tradition where I live to do that with the army.
Oh, right.
And and of course, one of the elements of survival is to be as fit as you can. And of course I do what I can with my background, with my history and my work. And I've probably, when I was between 30 and maybe 25 to 35, I was focusing only on business, so I took on weight. I'm losing it now, so it's good. But sport is very important, and young people have the advantage. I always say I have 4 kids, and I get into a lot of sports. Because I know that the sooner and the younger you work hard, the easier it is to maintain what you have and even perform better over time, over years. Maybe you are more explosive power when you're young, and then you grow into more long distance and cardio as you get older, because you need more time to get to that. But for sure, even if you have an emergency, if you have a car accident or you're stuck somewhere and you need to walk, how many people can walk 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers today without having a problem? How many people can run 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters? I don't like to run, for example, but I have to learn to run. So once a year I do 10 kilometers and I hate it, but I still try to do it, and I almost die every time. But it's important to keep your heart strong, to keep your mind strong and focused, and also all of your body works because, as human beings, we are supposed to do a lot of activity every day, physical activity. And unfortunately, we live in a world where we are seated most of the time, where we are doing a lot of stressful, we go through stressful events, from the traffic, from the boss shitting on you, from all of these things. So we need to keep our body active so that we don't, so that we balance the stress. It's a survival thing, really.
Yeah, definitely. And also I note, usually I talk about the importance of going to the gym or to train martial arts, but running is also very useful, especially if you need to get to one place to another place and not be completely out of breath, because if you're completely out of breath because you've been running from say there is a predicament in one part of town and you need to go 1 kilometer, and if you're completely out of breath, you can't really do much with your muscles and with your skills.
Or if, for example, in my case, or if, for example, if you're a bit overweight like I am, running is difficult. So, for example, I cycle a lot. So I keep my cardio with the swimming and other things. But every day in the city, when I have to travel for going some places, I take the bicycle. So it is a very it keeps the cardio on a good level, and it keeps the thing. And for sure, you're right. The body is, as they used to say, the Christians used to say that the body is the temple.
Yeah,
I agree. And you need to work your body to be as best as you can, and certainly at least not to be below the risk level, which brings you. Of course, young people don't have this yet. But when you get past 40, if you don't keep working fit and you first of all, it's harder. Your metabolism is difficult. It's more difficult than when you're 15 or 20 years old. But certainly, then you have the risks of the illnesses. When you're 20, you'll never think about this. But then you have the risks statistically of heart attacks, of the cerebral breaking, the cardiovascular problems, and then you have all the other things. Back pain. A lot of people have back pain because they don't do sport. They don't muscle. For example, I know it looks like girly kind of sport, but I love to do Pilates. I do Pilates once a week. When you have to work your torso muscles, your back, your abs, you're on the back and lifting your legs and doing your scissors and you look silly, but it's super fucking important because you get your spine strong, and therefore I never have back pain.
Yeah, the same with yoga. Really good compliments
to
martial arts to get the flexibility and to work on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and something I'm very weak on is, for example, touching my foot with my hands, or you say the flexibility exercises. I'm fucking bad with that, but I have to do it. Did you watch
my stretching tutorial?
I did. You have good videos. You guys must watch his videos. They're really good. No, and it's true. You need to do a lot of things. To be able to be multifunctional. Let's say if you only do bodybuilding because you want to look good and look strong, okay, but don't forget fighting. Don't forget running. Don't forget, and then you will discover that, if I have too much muscle mass, I cannot run. So maybe a little bit less muscle mass and more running. I mean, you can still want to do Mr. Olympia, but maybe that's not the best. That's not ideal. You want to have a mix of everything. That's, for example, decathlon. The athletics. It's fantastic because it's super hard, and you have to be almost the best in everything. And this is something to aim at. Of course, if you're 40 years old and a little bit overweight, you don't want to aim to the decathlon, but you start little by little. And what saved me, because when again between 25 and 35, I was working so hard that I put on like 30 kilos of bad fat. And what saved me not to be at 47, I'm a little bit overweight for sure, but I'm still fit. I can run, I can walk, as I said. What saved me is that I did sport constantly all the time, even when I was eating like a pig. So now I try not to eat like a pig, but for me doing sport daily is never been a problem. So it's very important. So
I'm eating like a pig now. It's bloat max.
Be careful. Now you're gonna have family.
I only do it when I'm training hard though in the gym. Good. But the reason like MMA is because you need to be strong, you need to be flexible, you need to have cardio, because if you don't have cardio, you will gas after one round and then you will be like, get off me.
No, I know. And boxing is the same. Boxing
definitely.
It's super fucking hard when you're hitting and hitting and hitting and avoiding and hitting, or Muay Thai when you hit, and then you say, okay, that was 1 minute. And you're fucking dead.
And I would actually say that boxing is worse than MMA, because in MMA you can always clinch up to get some rest, or maybe if you manage to get a takedown, you can recuperate some. But boxing, that's constantly moving, no rest at all, and same Thai boxing, obviously. But from that, talking about your book a bit, because I've been recommending your book.
You liked it?
I absolutely loved it, and I quoted to yourself previously when we were talking, so I will see if I can get it correctly. Infinite growth in a world with finite resources is impossible. Something like that. A perfect quote.
So it's not my quote. I actually quoted someone whose name eludes me, but it's pure logic.
Yeah.
It's if you have a cake and you eat one slice a day, there's a day when there's no more slices.
And oil being the cake then.
And natural resources are limited. So people say sometimes, oh, but what about the sun? The sun is unlimited. Yeah, sure. In our scale, human scale, the sun is unlimited. But you need resources like silicium and like rare earth to make the solar panels, and you need oil to transport them to your house, to put them on your house. So even that is fairly limited. So the point is that we are rediscovering something that the ancient Greeks, for example, said in all their matters, is that you need equilibrium in the world. You need equilibrium in your personal life. You need equilibrium in the economical life of your nation or the world.
Yeah.
You need to understand that you cannot grow forever because you have limited resources, and ideally you need to grow in the parts that you can manage the resources, and that the parts that are really useful for a decent and happy life. And happy life is not consumerism, because as we are discovering now, after maybe 50 or 70 years of consumerism in the West and in the rest of the world, that if you accumulate a lot of stuff, a lot of toys, a lot of gadgets, well, first of all, you're not happy because volume of small baggages doesn't fulfill your life, as we are discovering very much in the West. A lot of people are red-pilled on this now. But also, these gadgets, and this is also not my quote, it's something that has been figured out by many now, but the Greeks knew it already, that you don't own your gadgets. The gadgets own you.
Yeah.
Your phone, your smartphone is owning you.
Constantly consuming time.
He is your master, and your email is your master, and the little dopamine kick that you get every time you buy something, or every time you receive an email, or every time you buy some shit on the internet or at IKEA or elsewhere, you have this little dopamine kick that makes you feel happy for 10 minutes because you bought something. You spent. But in the end, so what? Then you have your house full of stuff that you will throw away. You are, instead of being happy with people that you love and people that respect you and people that you respect, you are with strangers that buy stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is also the problem of infinite growth, is that it brings infinite pain. And this is a trap that, to be honest and to be fair, we could never. It's difficult to know, because I've seen, I worked a lot in developing countries, in Africa and the Middle East. When people have nothing and you start to bring jobs and therefore growth and money, and then you build your first IKEA in Saudi
Swedish
or
imperialism.
Yeah, Swedish imperialism, or you start to bring shops or consumerism in Kenya, in Nigeria. Well, the people that start from zero, who have nothing, hey, they're super happy to have
of course,
inexpensive, good quality furniture, or they're super happy to have a phone so that they can talk to each other. And so they're trapped in the same trap that we are, but we have been trapped longer than them. So it's worldwide. This is a global problem, and because I know sometimes you have, the leftists, they say, oh, the people from the south, the poor people, they're so much better and more, oh, they're so pure. Bullshit. They're the same in terms of human functioning and the brain. We're roughly all the same, and we're not the same, but we function a bit the same. So they get trapped as well. So we start to see the whole world who is enslaved by this consumerism. But the clock is ticking, as you read in the book.
Yeah.
The resources are finite, and we're now at the very, very brink of having the first serious stops in this process. It can be oil, it can be rare earth, but it can be also some basic metals like copper or silver that are starting to be rare, or lithium for batteries that is starting to become more and more difficult to get. And so the question is going to be, how are we going to manage basically a human culture, and the growth of our habits of consumption, but also the physical growth of the number of people in the world, when suddenly the window of opportunity of growth suddenly becomes impossible.
Yeah.
Are humans able to manage degrowth, to manage a reduction of consumption habits, reduction of even number of people in a peaceful manner? I hope so, but I think not.
Yeah. So speaking about this, you have a large following in France, and obviously France has been, especially Paris, quite busy. Do you have any take on the protest there and how that relates to oil crisis? Because that's sparked it.
Yes.
If I'm correct.
It's an interesting one because it's what is happening right now in France, and we are speaking on the 8th of December 2018, and probably today there are going to be people dying in France in the streets, and there are going to be clashes. Maybe, I hope not, but there will be. Well, this is a symptom. What sparked this revolt, this revolution probably, is the willingness of the decision of the government to raise taxes for some bullshit reason. They say, oh, it's for global warming. Yeah, first of all, bullshit. It's not global warming if it's true. If it's done by humans, it's certainly not done by car drivers.
Yeah.
One big super tanker boat consumes more fuel and emits more pollution and CO2 than all of the cars in France in a year. So no, there's no question it is completely a fake reason. However, it's not because you're going to pay 20 cents more or 10 cents more on the liter that you're going to revolt. The problem is that the French people, like most Western people, have been put under humiliating pressure.
Yeah.
They have been told that they're bad, that they're, they are lazy, that it's because of them that the poor, the colonization,
we have
the
exploited
racism,
everyone else.
And they say you are so rich because you've been so bad for the last centuries. And the people say, well, first of all, I'm not rich, and every month I'm getting poorer and poorer, and I cannot consume like crazy like I used to. So this dopamine kick is not there anymore. So you have withdrawal, and this is because the economy is not growing. In fact, because we say we must grow, but the reality, and I explain this in my book, is that we're not growing. We have not been growing since the 1980s. We have fake growth because of debt. We have created debt to give money in the economy to people, to companies and so on, so that they can consume more and more. But this is based on debt. So there's no real behind it.
Yeah.
There's no reality anymore. We're not producing real goods and real production. The production is in China. The production is in India. The production of services even is elsewhere. The call centers they are moved to. So what is left in France except hairdressers, food, service to people? But this is weak, and as the economy grows weaker, because the resources are also getting more expensive and rare, suddenly you have these physical problems that happen in day-to-day life. People have less money to spend. So it's not a glorious moral revolution. It's not like people say, oh, we need to destroy this oligarchy that keeps us into slavery. No, they say, we have no more money, we want more money. So it comes from the bad part of our personality that we all have, is that we want more.
Yeah.
We want more. And then they say why we don't have more. It's because we have this oligarchy that indeed, and it's true in France and it's true elsewhere, that feels that because the world is starting to contract, they want to have even more bigger slice of it, because they also don't want to spend less.
Yeah.
If you want to have 10 houses and 4 big cars, you don't want to go back to 9 houses and 8 big cars. You want more. Because it's a habit. And so they are also more and more taking down on the normal people, and the normal people had this as a spark, and now they say we don't want this enough. And of course, because the governments, they are not the rulers, but they are subservients to the elites.
Yeah, the enforcers of the elites. Yeah.
But because they have the psychology of enforcers, they are of less good quality in terms of skills, in terms of, because if you're a smart guy, you don't want to be a politician. You can do business, you can do money elsewhere, or you can have a happy life doing something else. So you basically have the low quality people who are politicians to be, slave managers.
For
the
that's exactly the same thing in Sweden as well. That these people in the majority of political parties, if they got outvoted more, they couldn't do anything because they have no experience. They've been at the university, gone straight from high school to university, and then into the youth party. So Social Democratic Youth Party, for example, 0 experience in working, being an employee, 0 experience having an actual company, no concept about what is being an entrepreneur or someone like that. So they need to maintain power, because otherwise they're out of a job and they can't get anything else, because, as you say, they're not the best people. who does this.
No,
These
and
people are perhaps entrepreneurs,
and
etc.
they're so stupid, in fact, that we discussed this earlier, but they imported a lot of immigration. It's not the only reason, but they imported a lot of people from all over the world so that these people could be easy to vote for them in exchange of advantages and money.
Exactly.
But now, the people who are grouping on ethnic basis, they're voting for their own people.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
course, because they don't, So now you have these parties who are being squeezed out of power by people who are new in the country, and they say, well, we're going to vote for our own people, whether they are from, I don't know, whichever origin. And therefore, they're so stupid that they get themselves out of business from the politics, which is quite an incredible paradox.
Yeah, it's a short-term solution to get
Exactly.
get us into power 2 more election cycles, but then in 2 more election cycles in Sweden, and this is my prediction yet again, there will be an Islamist party, for example, and then they used to be in the Miljöpartiet, the Green Party, and the Social Democrats. But if they can say, we can do this by ourselves, we don't need you, because we don't want the, as we talked about earlier, transgender agenda.
And the people who come, the new people who come in our countries, they don't exactly like the left.
Yeah, exactly.
They agree, they are okay to vote for it because they get money out of it. But in terms of social and cultural approach, I mean, do you think the Islamists are going to like gay and LGBT rights or feminist rights?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Ich don't think so, as the guy would say. So I think it's going to be. I think the leftists are going to come to the people on the right, or nationalists, actually begging to say, please help us, keep us alive. Because the people who used to vote for us now, they want to kill us. I mean, and I mean the word seriously. I'm not saying kill us like a metaphor. It's going to be literally killing you. So, just to make it short, we live in a world that has been, and understand the mechanics. I think it was inevitable that we, with the kind of people in charge, we ended up in the situation that is going to be a disaster on a scale that probably humanity has never seen. And as I say in my book, first of all, I hope I'm wrong, because I cannot wish for destruction and death, and even if I know that it's going to be necessary, but I cannot wish for it. I have children. I love children from all over the world, from all the people. So I cannot wish for that, for death and destruction, because I know what it is. I worked in Africa. I've seen what it means. Fortunately, I've not done wars, but I know how it is. You can never wish for that. But if it's inevitable, and I think it is, it's inevitable. The second thing I ask people, and you've seen it's from the beginning of my book, I said, don't believe me. Don't think I'm right. Think by yourself. Check the data. First of all, open your eyes. Get red pilled. See the reality. And if you look at the reality and you say, well, okay, no, it's okay. Multiculturalism is great. I like it because I can have great food in restaurants. Okay, so it's your opinion. If you say, no, I don't believe there's going to be less resources. There's going to be a miracle energy that is going to come. I don't know, nuclear thorium or whatever. I've been hearing this all my life. Fusion. Okay. And you do nothing and you say, I continue to do my work as a slave for the businesses. Okay. I'm not going to blame you. You do what you want. I believe in personal responsibility. If, however, you check the data that you find in my book and other books and other sources, and you decide that maybe the world is really going into a path of very, very big problems. Well, then you are convinced on your own. And what I hope I give in my first book that you've read, but also in my other books that are coming out in English soon, and indeed I've been fortunate to have a huge success in the French version, but also in the Italian version and other languages. Well, then you can act. And I tell people what are the directions they need to act, which is more and more autonomy for themselves, and it comes from the mind. Think by yourself and then act by yourself. Develop your self-sustainability, so your autonomy, your independence, and then you will group with people who think like you. First of all, try to group with your families, with your friends, with the people in your neighborhood, and maybe it doesn't mean that you're going to move and build your ethno-state. I mean, this is very ambitious. Okay, some people can try, but we have our nations. You know, the land of the Swedes is Sweden. The land of the German is called Deutschland, not Turkish land. Even if I like Turkish people, I love Turkey, but I would rather have German for the German people, and Italy for the Italians, and France for the French, and Morocco for the Moroccans, and Kenya for the Kenyans. And I love these people. I love them in their own countries. I found their cultures fascinating. Sometimes it's weird for me when I go to Saudi Arabia. I can say I don't like it because I find very strange the way they treat their women, for example. But hey, it's, you know, they can do what they want. It's their country. But I don't want them to come to my country and say to me, "Oh, your women are prostitutes because they wear a skirt."
Yeah.
Well, if you say that, I'm gonna fuck you up like you never want to come back to my country anymore.
Yeah.
But as long as you respect me, you're very happy to come as a tourist. I just don't want you to stay here and become politically active in my country. For example, for me, it's my opinion, becoming national of a country, even for me, I was born in Italy, Switzerland should never have allowed me to become Swiss, in my opinion.
But you do have an Italian part of Switzerland too,
Sure,
correct?
Sure, that's true, Italian speaking.
Yeah.
But let's, because I want to be, you know, I don't want to be like some people who say, oh, you can have foreigners in your country, but you cannot have them in my country. I want to have a universal approach. You say, Swedish people should be voting in Sweden and should be sovereign in Sweden. And if you have Italian guest workers or, I don't know, African guest workers to come in Sweden, if Swedish people agree, they can come and work, but they can never become Swedes.
But there is a difference between Europeans and non-Europeans, though, especially in the Swedish case, because during the 60s we had a lot of people coming from Italy, Finland, some Hungary. They, you know, seamlessly fitted in, no problem at all. And now you don't think about that they come from another European country because genetic and cultural similarity.
Yes,
so
I say hi to my Italian brothers who live in Sweden, who became Swedish and made a lot of money in Sweden.
Yeah,
I know a lot of them.
So I mean that's one thing. And if I wanted to move to, I don't know, Germany or Great Britain, for example, it isn't. I don't oppose immigration.
No.
Like that. What I do oppose, obviously, is a massive immigration
of course,
genetically and culturally dissimilar cultures.
What I meant is to say that tourism, or even work, if there is a job, if it's possible, I have nothing against that in the sense that you can move if they allow you, if they want you. But I would say that you should never give political power to people who are not from your land or your blood.
Yeah.
And you can say, I will, and for example in Switzerland it's a good example. Let's say we would accept people from all over the world provided they work, provided they can, they don't want social security, they don't, or so on. It used to be like that. And provided that the day we don't want them anymore, they can go. We can let them go. But for example, in Dubai there is about 150,000 people from Dubai. They are Dubai people. And you have 2 million people who are foreigners. You think they can vote?
No.
You think they can require cultural specificity for their own? You think they can have churches in Dubai? You think they can have nudist beaches in Dubai? No fucking way. I mean,
no, they're treated quite poorly there.
No, I mean in fact they're treating well.
Are they though?
But you cannot do shit that Dubai people don't want.
Yeah, the impression I got from Dubai is like I fully supported Dubai to not, like, I wouldn't want churches in Dubai, for example. But I also know that they do treat their guest workers quite poorly. Like
depends which workers. But let's say if you're an engineer from the UK and you go work to Dubai to help build a
of course,
building,
that's the
you're
thing.
super well
I was
paid.
more thinking about the people from Thailand or Philippines, etc.
Well, that's true. That's true that that's in the culture. The more low level and low wage worker you are, the less well you're treated. But then it's still a contract where the guys from Thailand, they come to Dubai, they know that they will have to work 16 hours a day, but they know that they are going still to make 5 or 6 times the money that they would make in India or in Thailand. And so they agree that they will come and work for 3 years and then go back and they buy a house in Thailand. Okay, so first of all, I'm not from Dubai, so I don't have to judge, but I think the idea of saying, while the world is still in fairly stable system, it would have been better to do this kind of approach, saying, okay, you want to work from Turkey into Germany, you come, you do your work, once you're over, you go back to Turkey with lots of money and you buy your house and you're very happy and so on. You don't come and colonize. And once again, Turkish people, all the people I know from Turkey are great people, but are they Deutsch? Are they German? No, they're Turkish. And it's okay, and it's great to be Turkish, but it's still not a German. Or, you know, it's and I would say, I would push the logic to even, as I said, I would push the logic even to me, saying Switzerland should have said, hey, you're great, you're contributing, you pay a lot of taxes in Switzerland, you're contributing to our country. Excellent. So you can come, but you're still Italian. We allow you to stay. You're allowed to be free to go and so on. I married a Swiss woman. My children are Swiss. So then, okay, that poses a different question, because my children are in a way half Swiss, half Italian. Okay, it's still 100 kilometers away. But so then that would be the question of how do you say in English, of métissage, of their mixed blood. You know, they're from Swiss and Italy.
But they're so similar anyway. So it's kind of.
I'm from North Italy, so I'm you know, fair skin, fair eyes, fair hair. I used to have blonde hair, but
back in your golden days.
Yes, exactly, before I became silver. But yeah, but this is, and again, we can talk for hours about what we should have done, what we could have done. This is philosophy. This is political philosophy. Yeah. What I really try to focus anyway in my books is not so much, in fact, I don't have so much of a political approach in my books, and I say that a lot of political people actually read my books. But what I'm saying is to say, well, look, the disaster is going to happen. And it's like when you have a tsunami. You don't stay on the beach discussing, especially not discussing what kind of color swimming suit you're going to wear. You fucking run to the hills. And you run as fast as you can to places where you can be safe, and places where you can reorganize, first of all to survive, but then also to recolonize, reoccupy the land. Yeah. And this in terms of physical approach, which is really my specialty. I explain to people why it's important to go back to growing food, to be autonomous for your water, for your health, for social relationships around you, and so on.
Yeah.
But I think that you can push, and this is where people like you and others have this philosophical approach that I think is excellent, especially from young people, that say, okay, but you also need to have an attitude of being the best you can be, the conqueror of tomorrow, because the people who watch your videos and mine, we are going to be, those who survive, they're going to be the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the leaders of tomorrow, not as politicians, but the leaders as, you know, the next barons and dukes and kings of tomorrow, and I mean literally, because we are going to be the nobles of the world in chaos, and we are going to be the people who group others based on our experience, on our philosophy, because we're going to rebuild, because that's what humans do. We're not, you know, I hate to use the term barbarian because it's the wrong term, but we're not savages, we're not beasts. We will regrow civilization, hopefully better than the one we have. And to do that, we need to have the philosophical and physical strength and the experience to do it. And the today's wealth and today's positions of power may be completely overturned in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. A historical context there also is that during the Industrial Revolution, obviously the countryside of every Western nation, basically everyone took their things, went into the city, got to work at some factory, and a city, which you explained also in your book, is much more fragile. If you cut out the food supply for a city, such as, I don't know, New York City, for example, within 24 hours, there's no, and how will people react? Obviously, total chaos.
Yes.
So in the city, you are very fragile when it comes to these basic things. So, and there might come a day where that happens.
Yes.
Something might trigger, like Guillaume Fay talks about the convergence of catastrophes.
Exactly.
If that happens, and New York or London is without food for 24 hours, a lot of things will happen. Whereas if you're out in the countryside, you obviously have perhaps you have chickens, you can hunt, you can grow your own things, you're surrounded by people like you, you're much more durable. So if something happens, you have your brothers by your side, you have 10 men in the village, everyone is armed, everyone has storage of food, for example. So being out to the countryside and being a duke, repopulating the countryside and is the way to go.
Absolutely.
And then we also get the social aspect, because in the modern world, obviously, a lot of people they live in an apartment in the city where they're completely alone. Their parents live 50 miles away, their brother lives in another country, they're completely alone, they go to work where they don't really care about people, and then 2 years later they go to yet another work.
Yes.
So the social aspect is also obviously important, but if we can have this community still. Go back to how it was like 300 years ago, then I think we can be a bit happier also.
Yes, and this is why it's very important that we learn from everyone. I'm going to say something. First of all, you're right, and this is, by the way, my second book is about surviving in the city, and it's going to come out next year in English. But it was a big success in France as well. And what I explained in this book is indeed why city is so fragile, and it's so, as you said, it's an incredible trap. But you can still do something if you are forced to live in the city because of work or family. But indeed, in my first book, I try to explain the basics, philosophy of why you should move away, why you should get away from the city, away from the beach where the tsunami is hitting the strongest.
Yeah.
You have to go away. But this is why, and maybe it's controversial for many, this is why I force myself to talk with everyone. I talk with ecological people. I talk with, sometimes, you know, you have these leftist people who moved and they move in a farm and they have these designs of permaculture and they grow their own food. I love to talk with these people because they understand also the same.
Yeah.
They have a different approach, but they understand the same basics, and we can learn also from them. We can teach to them as well. Because I always, for example, I have a strong part of defense. You need to defend yourself, because if you develop this great farm but you are into peace and love, well, someone will take your farm at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
So you have to defend yourself, first of all, as your own, but also with your village, with your region. This is why you develop, the networks. But if your network is peace and love, your network will be enslaved at some point. So by someone who is not peace and love. So you need to learn. As I say, I'm a pacifist, but I'm not non-violent. I like violence. It's an important part of who we are. But it has to be used at the right time. It has to be used with wisdom, and it's something that I try to teach. But I try to also talk with people from all over the place, from all over the countries. For example, a controversial topic is, for example, Israel.
Yeah.
Israel is an interesting nation. They have borders. They don't want multiculturalism. They try to avoid the degeneracy that comes from the West, that maybe some of them have created in the first place, but still now is polluting them as well.
Yeah.
So we have to learn from these guys. So we have to talk with the Israelis who say, we agree with nationalists all over the world. Hey, I agree with Nigerian nationalists to have a free Nigeria. I agree with Senegalese nationalists who want to have a free Senegal, independent from the fucked up policies from the World Bank and IMF and France government. Yes. And I agree with Polish nationalists who want a free Poland, or every nationalist of the world is my friend, provided he defends his people in his land. So indeed, for example, Israeli nationalists, in fact, they can teach us how you say to the media, fuck no, we are not becoming a non-Jewish land. Okay, if you're a Palestinian nationalist, you may disagree with them. I understand. I'm not Palestinian though, and I'm not Jewish, and I'm not Israeli. So I can listen to the Palestinians, and I can only say to the Palestinians, yes, if you want your land, fight for it.
Yeah.
And I can say to the Jewish people, if you want to keep your land, fight for it. But what else can I say? I'm not the judge. First of all, who cares what I think? If I say to people, oh yeah, Palestine must have a country. Okay, how much have I influenced a 70-year-old war? Zero.
The thing here also
so that's not my point.
The lesson from Israel and Palestine, my take is like, I stand with Europe. That's if someone else, who do you side with? I stand with Europe. What we can say though is that multiculturalism, having two different peoples at the same geographical area, then you have Israel and Palestine.
Sure, so but at the same time, and this is important to always add that, is I don't want Palestinian people to influence my media and tell Europeans what to do and how to live. Because we know how the European media is completely controlled by Palestinians.
Yeah, Palestinians.
Sure. So, and at the same time, I don't want, I love Russians. And if I have to believe the news, it seems that Russia influences all our election and everything. So, okay, so be it.
Yeah, I'm actually paid by Putin.
Yeah.
I got my nice suit. Thanks, Putin.
I have two jobs. One is head of Mossad and one is KGB, FSB now. So anyway, besides the bullshit, the reality is that we need to learn to be sovereign. We need to learn to be, again, independent. We need to learn to be people. And by the way, once you are independent, when you are secure, like a man who is secure, a man who has insecurity is always jealous of others. But once you are secure, once you don't give a fuck about then you're becoming a real wise man, a real man in the Nietzschean sense. And then when you talk to other real men, whether they are from different lands or we talk to this in the gym, you can talk with another strong man from the Arab countries or from Africa or from elsewhere, and you have mutual respect because you all went to your temple of iron.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've all worshipped the god of iron, and it's fine. And then you can say, okay, look, I would still rather you live in your country and you do your culture in your country, but at least as humans, as men,
yeah, we understand
respect
each other because
we respect each other.
As opposed to like a strong Arab man in Europe, he will not understand a weak leftist European man because he doesn't see what's the ulterior motive, why is he doing this, but he obviously understands a nationalist because I say, you know what, I want my women to be safe, I want my land, I want wealth. That's something he can understand and respect.
And if you push this logic, then you would say, and I agree with it, this is how I actually started with all of this, is to say, well, maybe, you know, as European nations, whether we are in control of what we do or not, and I think we're not in control, but maybe we should stop to fuck up with other countries across the world and to impose to Iraq democracy or to impose to whoever in African countries the fact that they have to export their raw materials to, not to us, because I never received any oil from Nigeria. Personally, I would love to, I would love to have received it. And where are my millions? But maybe French company Total shouldn't use the French government to force Gabon to sell them at good price the oil from Gabon. And then we have Gabon people, in fact, Gabon is rich, but or Angola people moving to Europe. Because no. We should stop to have our businesses to use governments that are not independent to exploit or do war in the rest of the world. Let them manage according to their means, according to the culture, and if we want to trade, we do fair trade. I agree. We can trade our technology and our knowledge against their resources or whatever, but it has to be fair. But otherwise they use that as an excuse to say, well, you stole the richness from Africa, and so therefore we come to you and we'll steal from you. And I say, first of all, two wrongs don't make a right, okay? But first of all, I didn't steal anything. And, you know, our towns from the Middle Age, from our cathedrals, our churches, and we didn't steal that from Africa or from anywhere else. There's no oil involved in the construction of cathedrals. There's no, you know, colonization of Africa started in 1866 or something. It's very recent.
The educational system and Hollywood is very much pushing this.
Also run by Palestinians, it seems.
The eternal Palestinian. No. So they create this sort of resentment against white people, saying, you know, look at these Europeans, look how wealthy and happy they are. That's because of you, because you have been enslaved.
Yes, of course.
And they don't take into consideration the fact that we've survived the Ice Age and created paradises out of dark, bleak, poverty-stricken places.
And you know, so, let's not be on the opposite. I mean, exploitation does happen, and it did happen, and Europe has conquered the world, with sword. And iron, not just by being nice.
But in Sweden's case, though, we have been nice to non-Europeans, but we haven't been as nice to Europeans. So in our case, we've stolen a lot from our neighbors, basically. But Africa, we haven't touched.
And likewise, I'm sure that there was a time where the people of Sweden suffered from poverty, and of course, and this is why they moved to America and other places. So the point is not about the past. The past is what it is. And we can have interesting philosophical and historical discussions. But the question is, what do we do about the future?
Yeah.
And what is the moral, philosophy? Because philosophy has to be universal. It's not something that, you cannot say, oh, my people has to follow these rules, but we can apply other rules to others. And no, you have to have the philosophical rules that are applied to everyone, and then you have a preference. You have discrimination against your people to others. Like the same way, the human body, we have something called the skin, which is a border against the outside and the inside. And if we get rid of the skin, you die because you have infection. And the same way, a country doesn't want to have an infection. You want to have a border so that you can select who comes in, who comes out, and then you can put out the people. And usually it's called war. It's called fighting against an invasion. And today we basically said, oh, no problem. We give away all our money. In fact, we give away no money. We give away money we don't have. We're creating debt. All our countries are bankrupt. I'm sure also Sweden has huge debt.
Yeah, of course. When we say that, okay, can we really take care of all of these refugees? Just another loan at the bank and then problem solved.
Yes.
Or problem solved until tomorrow, because then we need another loan. So yeah, obviously everything is driven by bank debt. So banks are quite...
Are also controlled by Palestinians sometimes?
Yeah, I think they are.
This Palestinian! But yeah, but you see, this is exactly the problem. For example, if Palestinians had their own country and they stayed in that country and they say, now we are a normal country and we don't want to influence you, we use the same philosophy that I'm describing. You're a sovereign, you don't want to influence others. Of course you do trade, of course you want to have advantages, but you're not trying to subvert people. Well, then Palestine is a happy country I'm happy to do business with, right? So I don't necessarily want, and actually Palestine would say to Palestinians who run porn, banking, media and culture and art in the world, Palestine would say to them, look, don't subvert, please don't subvert or stop subverting the countries you're in, because otherwise, sooner or later,
yeah, of course,
we're all going to suffer from the return of the pendulum, because eventually, you know these people. Europeans are super nice and friendly and open and until they're not.
Yeah.
And then it's too late. And no one wants that in reality. No one wants that. I have Palestinian friends, in fact. And they agree with what I say when you talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Israelis...
also, yes. Same thing for them. They're much less powerful and influential.
But I'm thinking about...
no, but I like them as a people. It's not a problem, by the way.
They do have... I just came to think about Netanyahu and Viktor Orban having a meeting talking about George Soros. So obviously they have some issues that they can see eye to eye on.
Sure.
And they're also targeted in certain ways that...
It's incredible paradoxical, because if you want to go, this is not the topic of today, but really it's... sometimes you know the story of the scorpion and the frog. You have a frog who wants to cross the you have a scorpion who wants to cross the river, and it cannot swim. So he sees a frog and say, "Hey, frog, can you help me cross the river? I can go on your back and you swim across the river and I get the other side." And the frog says, "No, because you're going to bite me. You're going to sting me, and then I'm going to die." And the scorpion said, "No, that's stupid. If I sting you in the middle of the river, you're going to die, but I'm also going to die because I sink with you."
Yeah.
And so the frog says, "Okay, now that's logical. Okay, you can climb on me." So the scorpion climbs on the frog. The frog starts to and in the middle of the river, the scorpion stings the frog, and the frog starts to be paralyzed and starts to sink and says, "Why did you do that? You're going to die now." And the scorpion says, "I know, but it's my nature."
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful about this, and the nature is culture. We have to be very careful, and we have to work, and we have to help people to change their culture, to stop fucking with us, because it's gonna fuck with them in the end.
Yeah.
So when you talk to people from other cultures, whether they are from Arab or African countries who come here, you think, for example, the gangs of foreigners who are in Sweden and are making Sweden the rape capital of the world, you think it's going to end well for them?
Yeah, no, I mean, they're going to get executed. Probably.
Yeah, one day.
So
one day the pendulum swings the other side, and when Swedish people will stop to be cucked and become Vikings again, I need to describe what? Yeah, make Sweden Viking again. Do we need to describe what is going to happen to these people? Well, even if and you will always have people say, "Yeah, but this family, they have never raped anyone. They're normal. They work. They're..." Well, so did the Jewish people in Poland. They never fucked with anyone. You know, the Polish, the Jews in Poland or in Belarusia or in Ukraine, they never managed the finance in Germany in the 1920s. They never fucked the Germans. They never stole money from the Germans. They never did anything wrong in Germany or in Austria from 1919 to 1930. Well, tough luck.
Yeah.
They ended up in the wrong side of the power struggle at some point, and it's history teaches that lesson. So we need to tell to you know, the foreigners in your countries, in my countries, you know, whether we're invaded by Koreans and Japanese, we know how bad they are when they come to our country. So we have to tell them to say, please, you know, if you keep doing stuff that is bad, and if you don't stop following to these corrupt politicians who are using you for their own short-term gains, you are going to suffer in the end. And they understand this, because if you're a Somali in Somalia, in Mogadishu, or in Kenya, whatever, in any other country in the world except in Europe, if you rape a woman, you're dead.
Yeah.
Because the family of that woman will raise up the tribe of that woman. They will come to your tribe, and your tribe will come to you and say, look, we told you don't fuck with women outside of our tribe. Mm. Now you have put disgrace on our tribe, and now we're at war. And there's going to be thousands of people who are going to die. So we are going to take you, we're going to deliver you to the other tribe, and they're going to fucking execute you. And maybe if you're lucky, they don't torture you before. Mm. So you did bad, you're not part of us anymore, you go away. I've seen this in Africa. I've seen it happening. I've seen people lynched in the street because of things like that. And it wasn't even rape, it was theft. Mm. If you steal something from someone, you get killed by stone and everything. So in that world is very brutal, because they are still surviving. Yeah. I've seen this in Ivory Coast. I've seen a village who has massacred a guy he's a foreigner, he's from another village. He stole a chicken. Mm-hmm. They caught him and they lapidated him immediately. All of them, all the village came and lapidated the guy. Because they need the fucking chicken. Yeah, this is super important. The chicken makes eggs, and it's an investment for that tribe, for that village. So they understand this very well. It's just that they understand, and they've been convinced by our politicians, that we are in a free, self-service, and that. But I can tell you, I'm sure that 200 years ago, and I know in Switzerland, I've seen, judicial cases, a guy who steals an apple in Switzerland 200 years ago, they put him in a cage in the middle of the village, of the town, and people spit on him and throw him.
Yeah, we had as well shame poles.
The shame pole. So the guy's in the cage for stealing an apple, and for 24 hours they shame him and they throw him stuff and they poke him with sticks and everything. And do you think that guy is going to steal another apple after that?
Yeah, no, of course not. And
I don't think
the thing
so.
is, like today, with the luxury, it weakens us to that point. We can afford to basically, if we're talking about social welfare, coming in, people from outside of Europe just coming in to take the social benefits, we can afford that. We had the luxury, but as things began to decline in the economy, people will become a bit more, responsible with the money. Yeah. And obviously when we get to that stage when that chicken is necessary for your children's survival, then obviously your patience will have gone from this because you can afford it to that. And when the patience comes to that, a lot of things can happen, obviously.
Sure, and again, I'm not saying that we should put people who steal an apple in the public shaming place and get thrown and stick. But I think that's not my point. My point is to say that we need to explain things to people. We need to explain how life really is elsewhere. And this is maybe my challenge was that I worked so many years in countries where it's still brutal and it's still. But by the way, when I was in those countries, I am fully respectful of their customs.
Yeah, of course.
I am, when I visit a mosque, I take away my shoes, obviously. First of all, because they will make me understand very quickly that that's not the way you do it, but also because I feel generally respectful of them in their own land. Mm. And as I said with the Saudi example, okay, I may not enjoy the fact that women are dressed in a tent pole, in a camping tent or black stuff or whatever. I may not like that they beat their women or they lapidate them when they claim them to be lying, which no woman ever lies. We know that, so it should never happen, but it does happen. It seems in Saudi. Anyway, but that's their country. I respect them even if I dislike that. And I can very well understand that some of the people who come in our countries dislike our ways, and they say, "Well, we dislike you to eat pork. We dislike you to have nudist beaches." Yeah, okay, fair enough, but it's still not your country. So this is why the political aspect of it is fundamental. That we should own our own countries, And that means that our politicians should only respond to us. So we need direct democracy, which is what we have in Switzerland. For the moment, it's under pressure, it's under siege, but it's difficult. It's the way we work. And this is what I believe the French people in today in the French Gilets jaunes revolution are wanting. They don't want a new government. They don't want a new president. They don't want less taxes. They want to decide how is the future, and their future is going to be difficult, like ours, like everyone, all of us. But at least they want to be in control, because this is what humans don't like, is not to be in control. We want to be in control of our destiny, whether our destiny is nice or it's war or it's very tragic. But at least it's our control. When we feel it's someone else's control, sooner or later we become enraged, and then we also make mistakes. Then we do overboard and we do excessive violence. Yeah. And this is what people don't understand. Is in fact my message is one of moderation, but moderation through honesty and through telling things like they are really. And this is why I have, I think, success, but also, and I'm not the only one. We are many across the internet to be able to have our voices heard. And in fact, when I listen to your video or many others from people, let's say on our side of the spectrum, it's very, very, very moderate. It's much more moderate than the leftists to say we want to kill white men, or that they say we want to kill Jews. The leftists say that more and more because they want to pander to some of the Muslim people, and most of the Muslim people don't want to kill Jews, but some of them do, and therefore they pander to that. And you have some weird things in America. Of course, they have freedom of expression, which I like, but sometimes now you start to hear things which are really, really, really hardcore on Twitter, and they don't. By the way, they don't get banned because they're on the left. So so you can imagine if you and I would say something like that. I mean, we would be in jail. But of course, we won't do it because we don't. I don't think so. I certainly don't want that. I don't want to kill anyone. But yet. But certainly, it's interesting to see how the media is allowing some languages, some. I mean, that not even in the 30s people were saying something like that politically openly. It was more a metaphor and hidden. But now you have, the white men are the problem. We have to get rid of them, and I mean,
it's starting to get
plus it's crazy. We provide 80% of the tax revenue. So once we're gone, or once we go, we do like in Ayn Rand. Once we stop working, the whole system collapses anyway. So we are into collapse. To go back to your original, I talk too much. But whenever you look at however you look at the problem, and this is what I've done from 2005 to when I wrote my book in 2011. I looked at this in all sorts of problems: the energy, the population, the pollution, and ecological aspects. Every time you look at this thing, you have indeed a convergence of catastrophes coming. You look at the social, the financial, all of this is converging to the perfect storm. And the perfect storm is starting to explode now. We start to see changes of politics in Italy, in Hungary, in Poland, a little bit in Sweden and elsewhere. We start to see a revolt happening in France. The next country to revolt is Spain, you will see. And you start to have this revolt. And this revolt is not, there is no one objective, it's like repel one tax. No, it's general. People are pissed off. We can feel we're not in control of our destiny. We're scared. This is why my next book is going to be on fear, how you manage your own fears. And this is the inevitable start of the inevitable catastrophe. So we have to be ready for that catastrophe. It can start tomorrow morning. It can start next year. I predicted that it will start between 2020 and 2022 to be the maximum risk time. And then, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's 10 years from now. I don't know. I think I'm not wrong. I think I'm spot on the target of 2020. 2022 is the time where the maximum risk of this exploding. But or maybe we're going to end up into a dictatorship where we have no more freedom of expression. They cut all the channels. We cannot express ourselves, and then it's Soviet Union, and then it's the Gulag, and then you and I will work in the camps in Siberia, or not in Siberia, because Siberia will be a land of freedom, where we will have to go and be dissidents in the land of Putin, land of free men, and but certainly in our countries there is a risk of dictatorship, of the dictatorship of good feelings, or you know.
Yeah, I mean, we're quite close to that. If we're talking about Great Britain, for example,
yes.
You can get in jail for.
Look at Tommy Robinson.
Yeah,
he's a hero.
And the guys from National Action,
yes,
they did some stickering, putting up posters and stuff, and they went to jail for metapolitical activities. So that's really
crazy. But at the same time, it's a symptom of something that is shaking and not working. And even if it becomes a dictatorship, that dictatorship will collapse because then no one work. Like in the Soviet Union, you know, people were pretending to be working. Of course, they pretended to pay them, but it was a joke. No one was working after some point. Once Stalin was gone, people were not terrorized because they had to work under Stalin because they had a gun on their head. But once the gun was gone, you don't want to work where your effort is going to help parasites, whether it's political parasite or people parasiting from the bottom. You know, humans don't like to work. They'd rather say, well, if you can live without working, I'm also not working. So eventually dictatorship will collapse very, very fast, especially in this world where you need a big economic activity to keep things moving, to keep the supply chains supplying the cities, as we discussed, to keep the utilities, the water safe, the flushing. You know, we used to have perfection in this in Europe, and now we start to have new illnesses coming in. You start to have, you know, Switzerland, you have trains that are late, which is incredible. We never had train. You know, you would set your watch to the train. Oh, the train is arriving, so it's 5 o'clock. Okay, 5 o'clock. Now you're like, oh, 10 minutes late. How is it possible? And they're now, oh, we're sorry, the train is late. You know, the first time this happened, it was front news in Switzerland. It was in the 1980s. One train was late, and they made the news, first page, saying one train was late. Now it's every day, so it's fucked up everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
And the system cannot cope with it. So imagine, dictatorship will collapse everything even faster. So there's no way out. The only way out is to change yourself, to become a better person, to work your autonomy, so that you can withstand whatever happens. You know, if you're autonomous, if there is a dictatorship, okay, but at least you're autonomous.
Yeah.
You know how to defend yourself. You have a team of people that you can fight. If you want to end up doing guerrilla, you're ready. If there is no dictatorship and it's just an economic crisis, well, you grow your food. If there is war, well, you can also have your food and you can have your friends and you have your network of help. So whatever happens, it's better to be ready, to be autonomous, and to have a network of people, and to be wise in your head and not to be crazy and so on, rather than keep in the system. Because that system, no matter how you look at it, it's going to collapse. For me, it's my opinion. Once again, I say to people, don't believe me. Think by yourself. Check the information in my books or elsewhere. You know, the internet is amazing. This was the biggest mistake they did, is to allow this. The internet allows us to listen to you, to listen to many other interesting people, and to learn, and to learn the physical education, the mental, you have amazing stuff, and so there's no excuses not to do. The only thing we need to do is take that red pill, be convinced, think by yourself, and then do it.
All right, perfect.
Excellent.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Great to meet you in live, and
yeah, and you too. And now
we'll have a great conference
speech, and then you will hold a speech also.
Excellent.
It'll be nice. Okay, thank you.
Take care.